Shalom, this is Ayelet with the word in Hebrew. In this lesson, we will learn more about the SHVA. To supplement this course, you can get the complete Hebrew pronunciation chart and many more resources on my website, thewordinhebrew.com. And as always, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share this video below. In our last lesson, we covered the Hebrew vowels, but the SHVA vowel is unique in the sense that it can be vocal or silent, depending on where it is in a word or what's around it. In this lesson, I will teach you some rules and give you some great tools to know when the SHVA is vocal, meaning it adds the E sound to the letter, or when it is silent, and in that case, we will only pronounce the base sound of the letter. So let's begin with the rules. As I mentioned in lesson 2, a SHVA at the start of words is always vocal, meaning it adds the E sound to the base sound of that first letter. Let's look at the word for in the beginning or Genesis as an example. Here you can see that we have a SHVA vowel at the beginning of the word. First, we need to know the base sound of the letter and then add the sound of the vowel to it. The base sound of bet is b. A SHVA at the start of a word makes e, so together we have be. And this completes the first syllable in this word. Now let me break here for a second and explain how syllables work in Hebrew. A Hebrew syllable can have up to 3 letters, but only 1 vocal vowel, and in some cases up to 2 silent SHVAs. In my transliteration system, I use a / to separate between syllables and a dash to separate between base sounds within a syllable. Another important point is that a Hebrew letter can only have 1 vowel at a time. Now let's get back to our example. So again, since the bet is the first letter of this word, the SHVA is vocal, so together they make be, which is the first syllable in this word. The next syllable is re, and the last one is shit. So altogether we get be, re, shit, bereshit. And that's the first word of the Hebrew Bible, meaning in the beginning. I will explain in more depth how to break the syllables a bit later in this lesson and when we get into lesson 5 and start reading words together. For now, we will continue to focus on the SHVA. The next rule is that a SHVA at the end of words is always silent. In that case, we will only pronounce the base sound of that letter. Let's see an example with the word for king. We can see that we have a SHVA at the end of the word, but as always, we will start reading from right to left. The base sound of mem is m, plus an e vowel makes me. The base sound of lamed is l, plus an e vowel makes le. The last letter here is chaf sofit, with the base sound of ch. A SHVA at the end of a word is always silent, so we only pronounce the base sound of that letter, which is ch. When we put it all together, we get me, lech, melech, which means king or a king. The next rule is when we have 2 consecutive SHVAs in the middle of a word, the first from right to left is silent and the second will be vocal. In this word, we have 2 consecutive SHVAs in the middle of the word, and as always, we will start reading from right to left. The base sound of yod is y, kind of like what a y would make on its own, plus the e vowel makes yi. The base sound of chaf is ch, and since our first SHVA is silent, then we only pronounce the base sound of the letter, which in this case is ch. Since a syllable in Hebrew can only have 1 vocal vowel, and we already had that vocal vowel on the yod, the base sound of the chaf will close the syllable. Therefore, our first syllable here is yich. The base sound of tav is t, and since the second of the two shvas is vocal, it adds the sound e. So together we get te. Since this is a vocal vowel and the next letter also has a vocal vowel, the second syllable will be te. The base sound of vet is v plus an u vowel makes vu, and this will make our third and last syllable in this word. Putting it all together, we get yich, te, vu, yichtevu, and that means they will write. The next rule is when we have two consecutive shvas at the end of a word, both of them will be silent, which means we will only pronounce the base sound of those letters, and those base sounds will be added to the sound before them. In other words, the last three letters in that word will make the last syllable. Now, reading from right to left, the first letter is shin with the base sound sh plus an a vowel makes sha, and that is our first syllable. The base sound of mem is m plus an a vowel makes ma. The last two letters have shvas, and therefore those shvas are silent, so we will only pronounce the base sound of those letters. The base sound of reish is r, like when gargling water at the back of your mouth, and the base sound of tav is t. So together our last syllable makes ma, r, t, mart. Putting it all together, we get sha, ma, r, t, shamart. And that means you kept. So the shva rules we learned so far are always rules. There's really no exceptions to them. But when it comes to a single shva in the middle of a word, it gets a little more tricky to know when it is vocal or when it is silent. Next, I will teach you a way that can really help you solve that problem, although there are going to be exceptions in this case. Okay, so in order to learn the following rules, we first need to divide the vowels that we learned, except for the shva, into two groups, big vowels and small vowels. Take a moment and try to memorize which vowels are big vowels and which vowels are small vowels. The first rule for a single shva in the middle of a word is that if there is a big vowel before a single shva, then that shva is vocal, meaning it adds the e sound to the base sound of that letter. In this example, we have a single shva in the middle of the word, and the vowel before it is a big vowel. Therefore, the shva will be vocal. So reading from right to left, we have lo, me, dim. Lomedim, and that means they are studying. Now, if there is a small vowel before a single shva, then that shva is silent, and in this case, we will only pronounce the base sound of that letter. Here we have a single shva after a small vowel. So in this case, we will only pronounce the base sound of that sin, which is s. And since having a silent vowel is like having no vowel at all, that sound will be added to the sound before it to create one syllable. Reading from right to left, we have Yisrael, 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 and that is the Hebrew word for Israel. So again, here are the two rules together to help you memorize them. Now, as I said before, there are exceptions to these rules. One exception is that When a single shva is under a letter with a dagesh, meaning that dot inside the letter for emphasis, regardless of other rules and in most cases, that shva will be vocal. Now this could also happen when the dagesh is under the letter before the shva or on both. So even if we have a small vowel before that shva, if we have a dagesh on the letter before the shva or on the letter of the shva or on both of those letters, that shva is most likely to be vocal. In this example, we have a single shva in the middle of a word under a letter with a dagesh. Even though the vowel before it is a small vowel, that shva will be vocal because of the dagesh. So reading the word from right to left, we get la, me, de, ni, lamedeni. And that means teach me. So this is it for the SHVA vowel. I know this was a lot of information in a short time, but I hope this will help you understand when the SHVA is vocal and when it is silent, at least in most situations. I recommend that you watch this video again, and once you start reading and putting it all together, it will all make more sense. In the next lesson, we will go over a few more rules for correct pronunciation, and in lessons 5 and 6, we will dive into reading sounds and then complete words together. And as always, please remember to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share it with others. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, Shalom and God bless.